Roz, why is this work so important, and why are you sharing it with the world?
Thank you, Katrina. This work is so important is because it saved my life. I was very, very addicted. I've come from an addictive background. Both my parents were addicts. My father was dead at 47 with alcoholism. My mother was an addict. I then went on to marry an alcoholic. Surprise, surprise. I then 3 of my 4 adult children have been heavily into addiction for the last 25 years. So that's been prisons, rehab, psych wards, open heart surgeries, overdoses, you name it. So I have had to turn back on myself and do the work on myself to stay alive. I did get to my deathbed on the year January the 15th, the year 2000. I went to the hospital. I was begging to die. So, and I see the reason now, after years and years of doing this work and with me sharing it, is I see it out there everywhere. I see women, I can see it on their faces that they're looking how I looked, or I can see that they're feeling how I was feeling, not knowing where to go, just thinking, is this as good as it gets? And I was going to, let me mention, I was going to psychologists, psychiatrists, counsellors. They didn't get me. I wish I'd have had someone like me 25 years ago. I might have taken a bit of a faster track. However, now I'm not. Now that's why I'm passionate, and I have women coming to me all the time now, and on the outside it looks like their lives are doing pretty well, but inside they're empty. They've lost themselves. Codependency is the condition of the lost self, and we keep looking away at what's going on inside of us because we put the focus on other people, places and things in our lives, and we just keep cross-addicting with those sort of things. So that's why I'm passionate, because of how I feel now. I love my life, the freedom I have, I enjoy my life, and I have a lot of fun. A lot of people come to me when they first come, and I say, where in your life do you have fun? And you know what they say? What's that? So part of my coaching is to introduce them and get them used to starting to have fun once a week. What are you going to do for fun? In actual fact, one of my clients, I went to her house and she's got a sign on the fridge, it's okay to have fun. We've lost the ability to have fun. You only need to walk around a shopping centre, see the long faces. And I can see it because I was like that. And there's another way to live if you are committed and want to do the work.
Yes.
And just to finish off, when love is pain, it's not love, it's addiction. Now I'm talking about with friendships, with children. When it's painful, it's not really loving.
That's really powerful.
So I just want you to, if it's painful, it's not loving. But people get all waffly and they go, oh, but I love him, or I love my children. When we're in codependent, painful relationships with them, it's unhealthy and it's not love.
Yeah, really well said. Thank you, Roz. And Sue, what I'd love to ask you is, there's so much in the way of personal development. There's so much in the way of psychologists, counseling, self-help coaches, things like this. How is the emotional freedom technique different? How is this really shaking up the way that we are transmuting emotions in the body?
That's a great question, thank you. The difference is that through EFT, as a body-based technique, we are actually tapping on acupuncture points in the body, which are energy or the meridian points that directly link to the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is the part of our brain that is wired for fight, freeze. So when we are in these addictive relationships, very often we are caught up in the anxiety, in the stress, in the fight and flight. As Roz mentioned, we are wired for survival. And I understand the wiring of survival. Through the journey of being a child, up through being a single parent, and my journey also, I've got a lot that comes up in parallel with what Roz is saying today. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. But with the emotional freedom technique, the difference is that it allows you to tap into the parts of the brain that is very, very close to the addiction and the pleasure and the pain. And this is what the addiction is about. The addiction is about numbing the pain in the body.
Absolutely.
It's about squashing down the core wound. It's about putting drugs and alcohol over the pain of the core wound, whether that's pain from childhood, and very often it is, or pain that has occurred in the early years of development or through your marriage. That when you have the pain, it takes raw courage to be able to step into the pain and embrace it for the processing of that emotion in the body. And what many of us are doing through addictions is spending all of our energy, and that's why we get so tired and lethargic and end up with gut issues and problems in the body and health issues, is because we're taking the pain and we're putting the addiction over the top of it, and we're holding it down tight. We are suppressing, we're stuffing down, so our bodies become numb, and then we find we disassociate with ourselves. We're not connected in truth and honesty with our true self and who we are, because it's too painful. That is where the hotbed of the addiction would come from. And the addiction can be, your addiction can come in many forms. It can be that you're a workaholic. It can be that you're busy fixing everybody else. Your addiction might be that I used to be addicted to simply climbing the wall. My life was in the metaphor of I'm climbing the wall, I'm constantly climbing the wall, and I'm trapped and I can't get out. And there was no joy in that place. And there was very, very little option. I thought that my choices were just down to here. But what the tapping does is that, it actually changes the brain. It calms down the fight and flight, the amygdala that is screaming. That's what is causing the addictive behaviour and thinking. So when we tap and we say what the problem is, and it's called exposure therapy, we tap on the problem, we ignite what's going on in the brain, and we tap. The tapping gives a sense through our whole body that we're here right now and we're safe. And the frontal lobe, the thinking lobe, your creativity comes back online. You get connected with yourself neurologically, connected within your heart space. Heart, body and mind becomes connected, and that's when you begin to become empowered to make choices that are good for you in a space where you're not reactive, in a space where you're not depleted. So our work together brings our clients into a space where they're able to think because their brains come back online. Through the tapping and through the tapping circle, you're able to feel that constricted fear that's held in your body. It's paralysing. You're able to feel the fear go, and as that happens, your intuition comes back online, your digestive system, your thinking brain, and you're more able to be consciously aware of what's happening to you and what's happening within the family. So for EFT, for me, it has been a tool that has empowered me. It has allowed me to make new choices. And I often say to my clients, it will allow you to stay in your own lane. I'm very, very strong with my clients about not comparing themselves to anybody else, because that's how you lose your joy. You're not worried about how other people see you, because that's their opinion, that's their business. All you're doing is staying in your own lane. You're doing your own work for your transformation and your empowerment. And when you start to do that, you might notice that everybody around you starts to change. Because you shift, everyone's going to shift. And I've seen through this powerful work that families then are able then to have the space to make the change that we all desire.
Absolutely, and families to reconnect.
Yes.
Reconnect. We've got families out there living in families, and they might have the house and the good job and the car, but inside a lot of them are empty, and there's absolutely no connections. As Sue-Ann said, that's why we go outside for food or any type of addiction. And unless we get these core issues like Sue-Ann's talking about and address our actions and where it's stuck in the body with the EFT, unless we go underneath, I call it the co-dependency as well, which is stuck in our body, all we do is cross-addict. We might stop something, but we pick up something else. So all we're doing is shifting. I actually call it shifting the ship, shifting the chairs around the Titanic. It's still going down.
I haven't heard of that.
Pretty
It's
much.
tragic.
It's pretty brilliant.
It's
Yeah.
pretty brilliant. It's so tragically true.
You know what? It is.
It is
Sue,
tragically
and it's
true.
epidemic out there. How do I know? I was like it.
And
How
I
does
see it.
Sue know? We've been it, and now we have X-ray vision about supporting and holding people's hand through the journey, one step at a time, to rebuild their inner strength and connection.
And that's another key point. What Roz has said here. You don't do this work alone.
No way.
You don't go near this by yourself. When you're in this place, you are fearful, alienated, disconnected. And that's why we get the results, because we are with our clients, we are holding their hands, we see them, we hear them, and we are with them over the process and the journey
Of their change. Yeah.
Until you are able to be grounded, until you're able to self-regulate, until you're able to make choices that come from a place of expansion, healing and abundance, rather than choices that come from that constricted energy of the old pattern of simply surviving and hanging on tight and creating the same world and the same states over and over again.
Absolutely.
So yes,
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And Roz, I just have one more question to finish it off. You often say that codependency is the mother of all addiction, and we are well aware that addiction is running absolutely rampant in Australia and worldwide. And you're saying codependency is actually the top of the umbrella. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that, so people have a really firm understanding that alcoholism, gambling, drug addiction, whatever your vice is, that it all actually stems from codependency?
Thank you. Great question. I'd love to tell you. This is my baby.
Yes,
I
tell
love
us
this.
more.
Codependency is the mother of all addictions. So you can go round and round, rehabs. You can, if you're not going underneath, I sort of go underneath. If you're not going down and getting the connection to yourself, both through the body, releasing the traumas, and getting the connection to yourself, then all we're doing is transferring addictions. So you might have, let's say we have an alcoholic that gives up drinking, but they're still very codependent in their relationships. People addiction. I was a people addict. My husband was my drug. I left him, went back, left him, went back. How many times, who do you know that's left their relationship, went back, left, went back, yo-yoing back and forward? Because you know why? Because the pain when I left him, the pain of withdrawal was so intense, I went back. No different to a heroin addict. Now, I wasn't using a bottle, I wasn't using a needle, but the pain was just as great. So codependency is the disconnection, the condition of the lost self, and the condition of looking away at things for ourselves and not addressing them.
Yeah. And Sue-Ann, did you want to add something to that? You seemed really passionate there.
I was going to say,
We're getting exciting.
Biologically, that's exactly what happens in the body. What Roz just explained, the yo-yoing, going backwards and forwards.
It does. That's addiction.
That there are receptor sites on every single cell in your body. There are receptor sites for how you're feeling about the shame and the guilt and the leaving and the loneliness. Biologically, that behaviour changes your brain down to a cellular level. Neurologically, you're going to have flight paths for the addiction.
Absolutely, neural pathways.
The neural pathways. The tapping, EFT, the brilliance of the tapping is that it changes you at brain level. As you tap, those neurological bundles that are wired for the addictive behaviour, that are wired for saving everybody else, that are wired for not being true to yourself and being in this place of emptiness and shame and I'm not good enough and all those. The tapping biologically, neurologically changes that in your brain. So when we work together, that's why we're getting the fantastic inspirational results that we do, is because we're working on the biology of the body and we're also working on the cognition. We're working on all aspects of what it is to be human. And we're leaving no stone unturned.
No, we're not.
Because we're very thorough in our work. But at the same time, you're going to be led to a place of self-compassion and empowerment, where you know that you're more than enough. And the minute you come to the conclusion and feel in your body that you're more than enough, you're going to know that you're even more than that. And that's where the beauty is of what we do. Who wouldn't want to do this journey with us?
Absolutely.
All of us in some way, whether we have observed addictive behaviour, we still would have that neurological processing in our mind and firing in our brain. We only have to observe it and it's going to make a neurological change. You only have to have heard the screams or heard the shouts or heard some of the aspects of this behaviour and you already have been impacted by it. That is how, subtle
We're a
it is.
very, very addictive society. We're all addicted to something. So
yeah.
and then as you do this work, you get to finer and finer levels of it. And the more joy, and as Sue-Ann said, the more neural pathways, the rebuilding. And you know what? We hold your hand, we support
Yes.
you. Sue-Ann said she's firm. I'm firm with my clients
Yes.
as well. You know why I'm firm? I care.
Yes.
Because I've been where they've been and
Yes.
I know what it's like to
Yes,
be. And
very firm.
it is work. It is
Yes.
work.
I can attest to both of. I've worked with both of these women, and one of my favorite quotations, and I'll take this from someone else, is that they're not calling you out; they're calling you forward.
Absolutely.
They are calling you forward because they deeply, deeply care about impacting every single person that they work with.
And so beautifully said. And the other thing, I believe in my heart, where there's been a lot of suffering and a lot of pain, there's a lot of grace very, very close to you. So it's a matter of moving through the pain and moving into that area of grace where you will be uplifted, where you will have the freedom and the emotional freedom. So I'm believing, if you're watching this video, you're watching the live, you're listening to the interview, that you are at that place.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching it.
You wouldn't be watching it.
It's happening
It's
for
about
a reason.
surrendering, saying it's about giving up.
And
I give up. I surrender. My way hasn't worked. I've
Exactly.
tried
it's
and
about
tried.
time.
It's about time,
It's
yeah.
about
My
time.
way, yeah. I don't know how many times I've said that. And the other thing, everything changed for me when I stopped blaming the other person. I stopped blaming my husband. I stopped blaming my teachers. I stopped blaming my parents.
Looking
I
outside.
stopped, and I said, okay, the buck stops with me.
Yep.
I'm going to start taking personal responsibility.
Yes.
I learned this dance.
Yes.
I knew these movements. I knew how to behave. No one had to train me for this. I already had it in my DNA, and I'm going to take responsibility to change what's happening at DNA level. And that's liberating work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And being 100% responsible for
Yes.
every single thing that's going on in your life.
Things
That
can
doesn't mean
change
that
like
it's
that.
okay for it
No.
to be going on. However, if you're in a situation where there's a relationship where there's abuse or you don't feel valued or whatever, you are allowing it. You can change. We can't change anybody else. Take it
Yes.
from me. I tried to change my husband for 24 years. It didn't work.
It didn't.
So, see, I was looking out, fixing him. So, yeah, we're both very passionate to support you in this because we know the gifts of it. We know how we feel in our lives, Sue-Ann, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
I love my life. Who knows that Robbie Williams song? I love my life. I do. I do.
Rose is a walking
And when
miracle.
you love
She's
life,
just
life
alive.
loves you back.
Loves you back.
Back.
Yes.
So,
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. These two incredible women will be partnering together and collaborating on several workshops in 2019 and beyond.
And beyond,
So
definitely.
please check out the links for further information and to book. And if you're even thinking, this might be for me, please do not hesitate. This is deeply, deeply transformational work. And if you're ready to get out of your own way and
Absolutely.
step forward into limitless possibility, please, please, please join these two beautiful, passionate ladies. Thank you both so much.
thank you, Katrina, very much.
Thank you.